we've done Bendigo, we've been in Mildura, we've been everywhere. We flew to Mildura. It was Belinda's first trip to Mildura. She did. Yeah.
It should work, Kelsey.
Yeah. I love the drive though. Oh no, I love it. Oh no. Therapy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you've got to know the pubs to stop at on the way. You have to, yeah. Yeah, you've got to have lunch. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Because I'll find you no matter where you are. Anyone in the green? Yesterday we had our valedictory presentation. Yeah. At Kilbington. So they're dinner middle of next month at the MCG, but they just did their presentation, you know, for the school. Yes. Yeah, big fan. English is next Tuesday. That's one. Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
And have we got? Is that online? Has that got our opening slot there? All right, guys, if I can get your attention, there is a few still coming through. We've got the regional guys up here, which is awesome. Hello. I know you. Right. Let's move down here. Let's get down the front here. It actually makes it a lot better. So if we could just, you guys down here, Kevin, before you sit down, bring your team down here. All right, so we can fill in the spot. It always feels awkward when there's a gap right in front of us. But guys, it's a really good day. We've got a fair bit to get through. Leah is doing an awesome job. She's here today, and as you said, we're building towards the end of the year. I'm really focusing on having that great Christmas with our family and friends, and we want to be present and focused with every single one of them. But to do that, we've got to continually to learn, continually to implement, and continue to grow. But I'm just going to give you the update on the report card for what we actually done and how O'Brien works. You guys are not, this is not your first time. For some there is, I think, Renee, it's actually your first training session of property management, I've been told. And then we've got the team from Sunshine up here, which is awesome. So for you guys, this is your first time, but for many of us here realize that the purpose of O'Brien Real Estate is to facilitate growth. And one of the things I'm actually really proud of, when you have a purpose like that, it's the infinite learning mindset that takes you to the next level. And that's why PMs are just leading the pack in our organisation. We always have a great turnout with an open mindset to learn. And every day you come in here, it's actually the challenge is to facilitate growth, because that is not just the O'Brien purpose, but it is your purpose when you go to work to help, whether it's tenants. We understand that this is set, there's rules that we play by, there's guidelines, which is a better word, and that is what we call our values, which is family, mutuality, realising potential, embracing change, and health and energy. And as we get to Christmas, that's what we really want to do, the family one. And if you've been in anywhere around me at the moment, we know that the language around us is that when we get to that 21st of December or the 22nd, whatever day may be, we're going to be 100% fully focused, present with our family and friends over that Christmas break. But you can't wait for a week out to do that. You actually need to start that mindset now, that action plan now, and also have a clear strategy how we can do that, because it's been an extraordinary year with so much going on in the property management space, especially, as you said, there is no lie out there. There is a rental crisis. So that the challenges that you guys are having have never been seen before. And we say that every year, whether it be COVID, whether it be RTA changes, but now we've got the biggest rental crisis that the state's seen. And that's not going to change next year because there's just too many people coming into this wonderful state and just not enough doors being open to the rental market. They're actually being sold. So that challenges. So when we actually talk about that, we treat everyone as a broader extension of our family. There is no ivory tower. We're going to embrace the change. We're going to realize our potential, and we're going to do it with a real energy and a healthiness around it. If we look at our brand, and as an organization that's going through a marketing change, not a brand change. Marketing, you'll see some new photos, some new images, you'll see Silver get in, but the brand is not marketing. It's two different. Brand is what people say about you and what do you stand for. And nothing is makes me more proud of is when you go out and someone said, geez, they were so supportive in that transaction with me or that opportunity. You know, they represented, you know, with a passion, and they had respect for me. And then on top of that, they were very humble. And if we can get the market and we can get our customers saying about us, that's what our brand is. It's not about the boards we put out. It's not about the brochures. It's not about the photos that we put on the market. That is marketing. Our brand is what people say about us. And each day we've got to strive for that. And we do that by our purpose. We do that by our values, and we actually clear understanding of our brand. When we go through then, and we'll go straight to the next slide, maybe not. Oh yeah, we might unexpectedly. Skip. Try that. Gotcha. All right, so here's our property management report. Oh, we've got to go back. So property management report card. And for some people, this looks crazy in a marketplace. We actually let 286 properties last month within itself. Now, traditionally, that's a little bit lower than normal, but that's because of opportunity. A lot of people are staying where they are at the moment. So it's actually making that letting process simpler and easier, but actually with the opportunity, not as many people are moving because of the cost to move. Our vacancy rate is under 1%. Average rent is $487. And as you see there, our highest weekly rental you want is actually $1,800 per week. What does that represent to you guys? And as I said with my sales team yesterday, that anyone who trusts you to put their property on the market with you, you are well educated. You have a great group of people that can facilitate that position, because we do it a lot and we do it often and we do it very, very well. The marketplace is changing on us. Here you can see rental prices over the last 12 months have gone up by 11%. But that doesn't represent what people are feeling, because the 12 months before they went up by about 12%. And then they went up the 12 months before that. So that's compounded in the last 12 months. So you got to understand that unfortunately your tenants will be feeling this, but so are your landlords at the same time. And it's your job through those values to actually navigate each person in the best possible way, because your landlords have now got more outgoings than they've ever had before, with cost to serve gone completely up with safety checks. And so they should. It's a safe place, but with land tax, interest rates, your landlords are feeling it as much as your tenants. That's why your role is now more important than ever. We can actually see that the yields are going down. And we don't know how does that benefit to the marketplace? Hence a lot of the reason why your landlords are selling. But there's always going to be a need. So I'm not here to really down the moment. I'm actually telling you, your job role is now more than important than ever. And you being the ultimate professionals is going to take it next level, because they need help. And why there's always a human transaction involved, we need that. And that's what real estate's all about. So you can see our things here. It's been a bit mixed up. What that actually represents is that we now have over 261 people in the sales departments across the organisation. We have 124 people in operations from that. We have 48 directors, and we now have over 101 property managers in our organisation. Now, for an organisation that is only just 13 years young, it's an extraordinary group of professionals to be part of, and I'm very proud of that. But I also need you to know that you should be very proud of that, because you are very good at what you do. You're best on industry, and that's that infinite learning. So don't stop it now. So before I hand over to Leah to do that, one of the key things, the best thing about our organisation is the fact that there is over 37 different cultures within our organisation, because we speak 37 different languages. And the one thing about each culture, each language or each human being understands values of family, mutuality, realizing potential, embracing change, and health and energy. So we're here to help as an organisation. And if anything ever you need, you've got a great group of people that can really hang out and go through the organisation to help from any part of it. Years to date, over just short of 5,000 homes. On top of that, we will be very soon over 18,000 rental under management. On top of that, we're seeing buyers each week, database growing, and we have sold, well, by the next month, we would have sold over 29,000 homes in the Victorian marketplace and some further up far north Queensland. And certainly reaching out to the regional guys that are doing a super job representing us as an organisation. And I've been lucky enough to see a lot of the results that have come through for our quarterly awards next week. And for the regional guys, you're doing a super job. Obviously, I can't get out there, but the things are getting really great, as well as you guys here. So I think that's enough of me, Jason, unless there's another slide deck. I'm pretty sure I've got that one covered. But guys, let's not leave it at the table here today. Let's not worry about next week is getting one day closer to November. We do have the Melbourne Cup, but what we need to focus is on if we can get ready for that Christmas break by being ultimate professionals so we can actually spend it with our family and friends and be present at that time. And I think that's the most important thing we need to do this year. So thanks everyone for that. I'll hand it over to Leah, and I'm sure she's got a lot to say and teach us today. So thank you.
Always a lot to say. Thank you. Thanks, Dean. All right, we're all good. Can you guys hear me okay? Yep. Regional, can you guys hear me okay as well? Yep, perfect. All right, there's a few new faces in here today. Who's brave enough to say that this is maybe their first? I know there was one identified here. Renee, anyone else? New faces? There's a few new faces, obviously some new officers. I don't pick on anyone. I pick on everyone, so you're all safe. And you'll also know, for those that have seen me train lots of times, you know, anyone at the front isn't always the ones I come and harass. I harass everyone. So you're all fine. You'll all be asked to do something in some way, shape or form. All right, so today, obviously we've covered a lot this year. There's been an enormous amount of information I feel like I've bombarded you guys with. But it's you know, as Dean said, you know, everything in PM continues to change. So it's about continuing to add layers of knowledge to you and what you actually need to implement moving forward. So part of today, we are going to recap. Let me just get my control underway. So we're going to recap on rent arrears because, again, you know, things that I might have said earlier in the year have potentially changed. We continually deal with new written determinations that come through VCAT, which makes us have to change our strategies. We're just going to talk about payment plans to make sure everyone is aware about registering payment plans through the VCAT system. Only through VCAT, it's not applicable through Magistrates Court at this stage. There's a really interesting and concerning end of fixed term lease determination that came out last week, which we're going to talk about. Utilising 213, which is a really good section that a lot of property managers don't use enough. So we're going to talk about that one. And we're going to finish with maintenance. And as always, there's a lot. I always get concerned that we're never going to cover everything. So bear with me if I continue to talk super fast. We've got somebody trying to jump in there. And again, anyone has questions along the way, we do it as we're talking. So please don't wait until we get to an end and then go, what's going on here? Okay, so let's have a look at arrears. Arrears really haven't changed, but what I really wanted to just recap on is with regards to the process. And in this climate where you've got owners who are really stressed, we know there is angst, we know that there are renters who potentially, there's the affordability aspect of it. We just need to make sure that we have got a process in place. So from sending the SMSs to calling the renters, to then updating the owners, to then having that conversation again, potentially at day 10. Day 15, you know, and I do bang on about this a lot, day 15 is your day. You need to be able to issue your notice of vacates on your day 15. Hello, my naughty Werribee office. They're always funny, Werribee. So you need to make sure that on day 15, you are issuing your notice to vacates. particularly with the delays that we're still seeing through the court systems. You do not want to be waiting until day 20, day 25, because in this climate particularly, owners are going, so your landlord insurance companies are going to say, well, actually, you didn't do anything to mitigate the owner's loss from day 15 to day 30. So we're not going to pay the owner those 15 days rent. So then who's the owner going to come to ask for those funds? Yeah, first they're going to come to the property manager, and then the property manager is going to come to the director. You do not want to be in that position. So it's really important at day 15. If the owner does not want to action the notice to vacate, that is fine. Short email to the owner. Dear owner, just confirming your decision not to do this. Please be aware. I'm really concerned that this could void or put your potential landlord insurance claim at risk. That's what you guys just need to make sure that you're doing. All right, so record keeping. Again, making sure that you guys have got all your notes. You know, I've talked about it before, depending on what software system you use, we've got to get better at registering where we keep our strikes. Notice to vacates have become way more complicated than ever. You know, we've talked about in Property Me, potentially running them at the top of each page of a property to detail strike 1 and what the termination date is. There are some key components that you guys need to be adding there, so that when the property manager goes on holidays, goes on, you know, maternity leave, or leaves the business, we need somebody to be able to step in and say, okay, I can see that this particular tenant is at strike 4. What are we going to do here? We also need to make sure that whatever arrears management strategy we've got in place, you need to have that conversation with the owner. There are some tenants that you will potentially not want to keep. We all know that. For those who have not seen me present before, I have a portfolio. I have the same challenges that you guys do. So there are some tenants where your strategy might be to exit them out of the property. However, it's getting harder. All right, recapping on notice to vacate wording. From a group point of view, from an office point of view, it's super important to make sure you've got continuity across your notice to vacates. This is a template which makes life really easy for everyone. You do not want to be doing this, you know, make it up as I go, notice to vacate. If you start with that top wording, you fill in the second paragraph, which talks about notifying the renter to be a week, a fortnight, or a month in advance. Now, I know, although VCAT members seem to have become accustomed to this notice to vacate wording, because I think it's through most of the industry now, that second paragraph is not for the purpose of VCAT. It's for the purpose of the renter. Because what happens when the renter pays $660.80? What happens tomorrow when they get a rent arrears SMS? What do they say? What was that? Yeah, you told me to pay $660.80. How could I possibly be in arrears again? I tell you, that has not changed in 30 years of doing PM. So the purpose of having that wording is to make sure that you're telling the renter, this is what you owe as of today's date. But for you to be a week, a fortnight, or a month in advance, depending on what your frequency cycle is of your rent, this is the additional amount you need to pay. And then in total, this is the amount you need to pay. Yes, question. Oh, that's okay, no problem. What's your name? Welcome, Danielle. Poor Danielle, she's not going to be late again. It was the Monash, wasn't it? Oh, right. Okay. Any questions on our notice to vacate wording? No? Now, this is where property managers across the industry are getting it wrong. So this box on your VCAT hub, this is the box that you use, and this is the amount, the amount that goes in there is the amount of the arrears owing today. So if I bounce back, this amount here, $660.80, is the amount that goes in that box. All right, if you put any other figure that is above the amount of arrears that are owing as of today's date, your notice to vacate is invalid. All right, and you do not want to find that out at the time of the hearing. because you've wasted how many weeks? This is where you're putting your blurb. So again, if I flick back again, your blurb goes in here. All right. You've got to make sure your notices are correct. There is a large portion of notices that go through to VCAT that are incorrect. And it's really interesting. My lovely operations manager just left me to take up a role at VCAT, which I'm so excited for. I'm a bit jealous. I think I'd like to work at VCAT, although I'm not sure I could deal with the public, you know, on that particular level. And, you know, the conversations that we've had is all these, you know, there's all this information that's going out to property managers, but there's so many errors that are happening. So, you know, one of the advantages for VCAT now is actually have somebody who's got property management experience in there to say, okay, this is potentially what we need to do from a training, or this is what we need to educate the industry on. So there are so many areas that you guys can get it wrong. You don't want to be doing it right at the start. It takes a long time to repair it. So we have this example of a strike. So this particular renter, a notice to vacate was issued. You can see they owed $4,500. Termination date listed on this notice to vacate was the 28th of June. So this was a valid strike and the renter didn't pay any rent, and it went to a VCAT hearing on the 29th of June. On the 17th of July, the matter was adjourned and then relisted on the 31st of July for the renter to obtain some Salvo's rental support. That hearing was then re-adjourned again and listed for the 4th of August. These sort of examples, and again, this is from my office, these sort of examples are happening every single day. So looking at this particular example, what are some things that stand out to you? Anyone who's brave enough? The first thing that stands out is probably the amount of the arrears. It's $4,500. It's a lot of money. So this particular case where the renter was relying on her tax return coming in. You know, we've all heard those stories, you know, waiting on tax return. The tax return didn't come in at the amount that was expected. So the owner did the right thing, allowed for it, and it went pear-shaped. Okay. Is this tenancy viable in the long term? No? Why? Yep. Yep, absolutely. Why else is it not viable? Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So there are some alarm bells that are sitting with this particular tenancy. This tenancy will probably come to an end. She's still in there at the moment, but it's probably going to come to an end. And interestingly, although the adjournment, so it was adjourned for a 3-month adjournment to the 30th of October, she's now paid to the 1st of November. So what does that mean? I have to start again. So I can't wait. I can't just go on the 30th of October and renew those proceedings because she's paid up to date. Okay, so this is a good example for you guys. You'll have all of these sort of examples in your offices. What you have to be thinking about is, okay, what's my strategy to manage this one? Because this is probably going to come to an end and potentially come to an end in an eviction. If we're waiting on tax return and we're waiting on financial assistance through Salvos. They will only provide financial support if the tenancy is viable. It's going to come to an end where it's no longer viable. Any questions on that one? No? Okay. All right, this is another really interesting one. So in March this year, the renter was $3,700 arrears, rent was $730 a fortnight. The renter was actually issued with a payment plan. And the application was adjourned until the 27th of September 2024. That's a long payment plan, 18 months. Yeah, that one didn't make me happy. Okay, on the 9th of May, The rent was increased from $365 to $420, effective of the 15th of August. On the 3rd of October, we requested a renewal of the hearing. Now she's making her payments of $730 a fortnight. Why would I want to have this renewed? Yeah, so the rent increase has happened. The rent has gone from $365 to $420. If she's paying $730 a fortnight and the rent is what, $840 a fortnight, she's going backwards. All right, so one of the things you guys need to consider when it comes to these payment plans or these adjournments where you've implemented maybe some time ago, you actually need to go back and have a look. Have I then introduced a rent increase? Because if I have, I'm actually putting the renter further into arrears, which potentially might be your strategy. Nothing wrong with that. However, we can't let this continue to go. So now we wait. It's been, what, nearly 2 weeks. We'll give it another few days. Next week, we'll follow up VCAT to say, okay, where are we at with relisting this hearing? Because they're going to need to adjust the payment plan. So when it comes to you guys putting together your paperwork for your rent arrears and your summary of proofs, if you have a rent increase on foot, or you've got a rent increase due to take effect, say in December, you need to put that into your summary of proof paperwork. It's probably one of your first takeaways for today. Because if you don't, you're going to get an adjournment or a payment plan, and the payment plan's not going to incorporate the new rent increase. And then you're going to have to go back to VCAT. Third example that we've got there. So renter was $1,700 in arrears, rent's $480 a week, strike 1, termination date 16th of September, renter has made no further payments. VCAT was last week. One of the things I do like how things have changed. I was able to do this on the side of the road in the car whilst I was on the way to an appointment. We got an order of possession on this particular case, strike 1. Anyone want to have a guess why we got an order of possession? Well, yes, yep, didn't even have to have that conversation. The renter didn't turn up. Renter didn't turn up, but I had to push for an order of possession. The member wanted to give them an extra 2 weeks. I was like, well, the renter is already owing, I think at that stage, $4,500. Is that what it says? I can't quite see. 4,500 or 3,200. Member wanted to add another, what, $1,000 worth of rent arrears before we could actually get an order of possession. You know, so they're the times when you guys need to be saying, hang on a sec, member. If we add another $1,000 to what is already $3,291 in arrears, that's going to take them to $4,200. How much is the bond? You know, you guys have to be prepared to be able to push back at times to say, I accept that we might give them a little bit of time, but I do not think it's reasonable and proportionate that you hear me bang on about to give them 2 weeks. Okay. This particular story, yeah, main income earner is vacated. One of the other things that I took to this particular hearing, knowing that he's moved out, is I looked at what her income was if she was going to live there on her own. So her her contribution was sitting at about 37%. You know, as part of your argument, you guys need to know what your renters are earning. Because again, it comes down to being able to argue you're reasonable proportionate. You know, it's over the 30% threshold. We're actually setting the renter up to fail. Okay. You've got it on the application form. You can, I would be going off your application form every single time. And you, as part of the conversation with if the renter's on the call to say, you know, according to your application, you do this and you earn that, has that changed? Because remember, the renter's under oath, push it back onto the renter to find out. Yeah.
Unison housing, like that are actually 5%.
Yeah. Yeah, which is dangerous. Yeah, because VCAT have been given clear instructions from the Andrews government not to displace people. Okay, so you'll hear words from the members that will say, you know, are you wanting to displace this family? I'm being recorded, so yes, I am wanting to displace these tenants because they're not paying the rent. I kept it nice because I'm being recorded. All right, so think about that. So your other takeaway has to be, look at the application, have a look what they earn. That forms part of your argument when it comes to your reasonable and proportionate. I had a client the other day where the tenant was a lawyer and he was substantially in arrears. But I twisted it and said to the member, well, this renter actually earns, according to his application, over $400,000 a year. And the member fell straight into what I was asking him to do. He said, oh, sir, what do you do for work? I'm a lawyer. Well, that's all I needed to do. And the floodgates opened. You know those moments where you actually don't have to say anything on the VCAT call? The member just went to town. You're a lawyer, you know the process, blah, blah, blah. This is ridiculous. You're lucky that I don't hold you in contempt. Like, it was just like I needed some popcorn just to listen. So think about how you can utilize what you know. Okay? Yes.
Probably 2 steps back.
Yes.
We've got an adjournment of a hearing.
Yep.
5th strike going for possession.
Yes.
Adjourned at 3 months. Brent obviously promised to pay on time.
Yep.
We're on the 2nd month now.
Yep.
They were 7 days late on the 1st month. They're up to 7 days tomorrow on the 2nd month.
Yep.
When do you apply back to VCAT?
Yep. Okay, let me just check. Regional guys, did you hear that? No? Okay, thank you for those shaky heads. Okay, so the question is, there was a 5th strike, and we're going to talk about, because it's now under 331, this new piece of legislation. So 5th strike, if the renter is up to date, you'll get an adjournment. You'll probably get a 3-month adjournment. Now, again, unless the renter is sitting at more than 30 days in arrears, you are not going to get an order of possession, even on the 5th strike. So that example where the renter was 7 days in arrears for the first month of the 3 month, and then 7 days again, you have to gamble. If it was me, I would reopen. The tenant will probably bring the rent up to date. Your application will be dismissed, and by that time, your adjournment will expire.
Will they reissue the adjournment?
No,
So will you wait longer, or do you
you've only got your 3 months.
go over to when do you when should
You can reapply. So anytime with an adjournment, once the rent is 1 day in arrears, you can reopen the case. So depending on timing, it might take you 3 weeks to get a hearing. So, you know, you might be better off to do it straight away, or you might have a policy in your office that says 7 days. It's going to also depend if it's on a 1st strike or a 5th strike. But at this stage, what they seem to be doing is the rent has to be more than a month's rent in arrears for you to be getting anywhere close to an order of possession. Yep, unless you can try and create that argument of the reasonable proportionate.
They're so close.
Well, you can't get a payment plan on a 5th strike. So when you get to a 5th strike, you can only get a dismissal or an adjournment or an order of possession. No payment plan allowed. Yep, which is a problem. Okay. That's just, all right. So just also confirming that when we issue this notice to vacate, so I'll just bounce back again. So on a, have I got a notice to vacate on here? Yes, on a notice to vacate here, the rent arrears here was $4,456. This is the amount that needed to be paid before this date, okay? If they paid $3,000 on the 27th of June, you could then action this particular, this is a valid strike and we can make an application. If they don't pay anything, then you make your application. If they pay it all, then the notice to vacate is still a valid strike. It just means you can't do anything with it. Okay, so remember we've got that 12-month period. But where there's still a bit of confusion is that people think that you have to wait to have 5 consecutive notice to vacates before you issue that, make that application. Yep.
At the moment, obviously, notice vacate standard. is in a pay later, that it hasn't even been by the bank part, and we've received the payment.
Yeah. So it will come down to if they pay the full amount that's detailed on the notice to vacate before the termination day. Yeah, but it's still a strike.
It's still a strike, they have to speak to it.
Look, there are those two written determinations where they do say that, you know, in those first few days, potentially one member might say, well, it hasn't really been served, so therefore it's not a notice to vacate that you can actually go forward with. Others will say, well, yes, you could. So it's going to come down to what they pay. Yep. Okay. All right. So again, just making sure, and like I said before, you're going to have strategies for every different tenancy. There'll be some tenants that you're going to want to put on payment plans. There are some tenancies that you are going to do the 5 strike. You're going to do the renewal. But you just need to work out what strategy you're actually going to put in place. That's the key thing. All right, so this is the section 331. So this particular tenancy, it was a 5th strike. So you can see on your paperwork, they were 16 days in arrears, 5th strike. You know, probably 6 months prior, we would have got an order of possession, but because at the time we actually went to the hearing, which I think is the next slide, it was adjourned for 3 months. Now, depending on your scenario, I would encourage you all to always ask for a 6-month adjournment. Now, most members will say, yeah, no, okay? But ask, because if you don't ask, you don't get. All right, so this one seems to be the pattern. The renter was only about 16 days in arrears. Under section 331, they're able to adjourn it. All right, but then you have to think about, as the gentleman, what was your name? As Michael was saying before, if there's 7 days, if I don't renew it, my adjournment is going to expire. So it might be one that you actually push through. If the renter's not on the call, you may get a possession order. So it's kind of worth the gamble. Okay.
They've also got a rent increase coming in a month's time.
Yeah. So if that's the case, I'd absolutely renew and then flag that that needs to be considered. Yep. All right, so there's some wording here with regards to 331 that, again, we need to make sure everyone is aware that when the tribunal is hearing these cases for those 5th strike, they can't do an adjournment, they can't refer them to any financial counselling, they can only do one of 3 things: an order of possession, a dismissal, or a adjournment. Okay, and there's definitely, like I said, there's definitely a pattern of adjournments. They do not want to evict people. This is the other section that you need to make sure you're familiar with. So section 130 of the VCAT Act. This is where it allows for the member to use their discretionary powers, which is not always fun, but you might be able to utilise it at different times. It might be that you might have a rent arrears application on foot, the renter's on the call, the renter says I'm vacating and the rent arrears exceed the bond. At that time, you could potentially say to the member, member, under section 130 of the VCAT Act, you could actually use your discretionary powers here to create an order to disperse the bond if the renter agrees. And that prevents you having to go back to VCAT again. All right. Any bond claims that have been made after the 2nd of October, they're actually starting to come through much quicker. So your old ones, they're in the pot. The new ones, we actually had one come through overnight. I think the application was made about the 5th of October and the hearings around the 5th of November. So it seems to be about a 4-week, 5-week timeframe, which is a good thing. All right, so wording again for your rent arrears for your VCAT applications, it's there for you. Your list of what should be included in your summary proofs. So you've got your lease agreement, your ledger, any payment plans, the bond receipt, proof of electronic consent. What's missing from that list? What have I purposely missed? It's an application for rent arrears. Notice to vacate, yep. You might have more than one notice to vacate. What else? Yeah, proof of service if it was registered post. Well, you wouldn't necessarily put it in the paperwork. You would have it on your prep. You know, mine usually has lots of post-it notes stuck, so I've got that information. Yep. You do not have to provide, you know, there actually is no requirement for you to provide arrears notifications, but depending on the story, you might provide a short summary of what's happened in that tenancy. Yeah, because I've seen a couple of notices recently where actually on the notice to vacate, there are reminders detailed of, you know, renter was called on this day, renter was emailed on that date. You don't need any of that on your notice to vacates. You just need that wording that we talked about earlier. Is there anything else I'm missing there? Yeah, application.
Copy of with your proof of electronic consent. I always send the report we use property name.
Yep.
Property name to show that it's been sent and opened.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, don't get caught if you've got two tenants and you've only been dealing with one tenant on the one email. If you have been, and you've got two tenants and two tenants have given you electronic consent, even if, I don't know, one tenant two says, I don't want to know anything, just send it to tenant one, you still need to issue it on tenant two, because otherwise you'll notice your service isn't valid. Yeah, I would. Well, if you don't send them a separate email, at least, you know, make sure you've got your screenshot so you can save both emails. Yep. But don't just fall for, well, I only deal with tenant one, so I only need to tell tenant one. No, you need to tell everyone. And just also reminding, if your rent or your owner lives in Victoria, overseas, ACT, Northern Territory, if the property is owned in a company fund, if the property is owned in a super fund, you apply to VCAT. If the owner lives in New South Wales, Queensland, Tasmania, WA, South Australia, you apply to the Magistrates Court. Okay. And then even at the time of making your application, if you do not have a forwarding address, but the neighbour says the tenant's moved to New South Wales, unless you have something in writing, you apply to VCAT. All right. If the renter then, yes, has moved to New South Wales after you've issued the notice, that's fine. The hearing is still heard at VCAT because that's what you knew at the time of making your application. All right, any questions? No? All right, there's a couple of takeaways there for you. Payment plans. Who hasn't seen this document? No, there's a couple. Yep. Okay. All right, you guys need to have this in your toolkit. All right, you need to make sure you've got this. This is a payment plan form through VCAT. So you can actually R&D it, so you could rip off and duplicate it, brand it O'Brien, and you could actually use this payment plan document as a payment plan agreement that you make with other tenants who potentially not in the notice to vacate process, or you don't want, the owner doesn't want to go through the court process. All right, it's something they've created for you, use it. So with a payment plan, you've issued a notice to vacate on the renter says to you, hey, I want to do a payment plan. You guys can negotiate this payment plan. But you need to have then, you have to have issued the notice to vacate, you have to have made an application, and then once you've had this payment plan signed off, you email it through to VCAT. You'll have an order back from VCAT sooner than you'll get a hearing for your application. Okay, it is a really great document that property managers aren't using. So once you've signed off on it, you send it through to VCAT. In your subject line, it would say registering payment plan. You know, dear VCAT, dear member, dear ma'am, sir, please find attached our VCAT payment plan. We've got a hearing scheduled on this day, or this is the reference number if you don't have a hearing. This is then heard in chambers by the member. You'll get a payment plan order back with probably a 3-month adjournment. Okay, so then if the renter falls into arrears, you just reopen your application. I had one example where we got the payment plan back before we got the adjournment, before we got the hearing, and the tenant fell into arrears. So we're able to proceed with that original hearing. Okay, and the beauty of this, you guys are negotiating the payment plan. not VCAT, not one that has $100 a week for the next 18 months. Okay, you guys are negotiating it. VCAT doesn't have to agree with it, but if both parties have signed it, it's done. Okay, hugely valuable. All right, when you are communicating with VCAT, so in your subject lines, these are the words that you need to make sure you're using. Payment plan agreement, and then your R number. Renewal of proceedings, and then your R number. Summary of proofs, and your R number. If you are sending multiple emails, it should say email 1 of 3, 2 of 3. Okay, some tips. Make sure you are numbering all of your pages on your summary of proofs. There is nothing better when the member says, oh, you know, Ms. Calnan, how much is the bond? Oh, member, the bond is on page 47 of your summary of proofs. Thank you, perfect. All right, keep the question 100 words or less. Get the outcome that you want. Okay, end of fixed term tenancy notices. So there are two types of end of fixed term tenancy notices. One where the tenancy is less than 6 months. Okay, less. Not 6-month lease, less. So this would have to be a 5-month and a 30-day lease. Okay, I think there's some of these that are brewing that we haven't all really interpreted. Oh, actually it does say less than 6 months. So if you've got a 6-month lease and you're thinking that you're going to be issuing an end of fixed term tenancy, it's not going to be a 60-day, it's going to be a 90-day. Okay. Now with this particular section, the challenge period from the renter is 21 days. Now if we move to the next one, where we've got 6 months to 5 years. So this accommodates, you know, because obviously we then have 5-year leases, 5-year leases or more, which you know that I like to refer to as married at first sight. Why would you marry your tenant if you haven't dated them? So with your 6 months to 5 years, you would issue a 90-day end of fixed term tenancy. Now your end of fixed term tenancy notice, the expiry date has to be the end of the lease. I know on CAV it says it can be served on or after the termination date. That's not what the legislation says, so be careful of that. All right, the challenge period for this one is 28 days. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Again, even though you've got 21 and 28 days, it doesn't prevent the renter from still challenging it. The tribunal will still call it, they'll listen to it. Now, on VCAT, which I think is my next slide. No, let me just. Yes, so on VCAT, it says that you have to give a reason for an end of fixed term tenancy. The legislation says you do not. All right, so you do not have to put a reason in here. You could simply put the owner is exercising their rights under 91 ZZD and asking the renter to vacate at the end of the lease dated blah, blah, blah. Something as simple as that. However, if it goes to VCAT or Magistrates Court, you're going to have to explain the reason. All right, it does not make your notices invalid. They try to argue that, but it does not make your notices invalid. All right, so this is this case that came out last week, which does send some heckles on the back of my neck. Oh, is this yours? Oh, there you go. So there are some really big advantages of having written determinations, because we all go, really? This is how we're going to play this game. Yeah, that's not that one. Oh, that's this one. Oh, okay. God, she just won't go, will she? Okay. I will. I would do a owner moving in, but we'll talk about that. I'd make another one. Haven't heard before a different movie. Yeah, but that's under. Yeah, but that's under 91 ZZD. Make it under owner moving in. Yeah.
Psychology reports, doctors' reports, approved from the wife who came into the hearing. Everyone came into the hearing, so this man is living in his car.
Yep.
Suicidal, needs to get back into his property, and they.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's basically, so the renter was issued with an end of fixed term tenancy. She'd been in arrears, if this is, I didn't even realise it was the same one, been in arrears multiple times. In fact, I think from memory, Christine, you got a 5th strike and the matter was dismissed. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot less than what, a lot less than what she'd originally agreed to. She kept playing around with it. They kept emailing me saying, oh, she's going to be a week late. And, you know, so I reopened it again, got nowhere. They just kept putting us back on the payment plan. But before we actually went to the first VCAT hearing, I served the 90-day notice because I didn't want it to be deemed retaliatory because I could see this coming.
Yep.
So I served the 90-day notice to vacate before we went for the first hearing. And then we waited to the end of the 90 days. We made the application. We went to, it took 6 weeks to get a VCAT hearing after that. Went to the hearing. The member picked up the phone and said, I don't have time for this today. I'm going to adjourn it.
Right.
Right. Said
Yep.
That was her words, exactly her words.
Yep.
And she said, it'll be another 6 weeks. And I said, oh, come on.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I've got an owner living in a car, blah, blah, blah. So then she said, oh, well, I'll go and see if somebody else can hear it. Came back on the phone, said, well, relist it for Friday. So went in on the Friday. And then all agreement, it agreed by everybody. Not even an hour after we hung up from the hearing, Justice Connect emailed VCAT, said the tenant didn't realise they had to work on Friday. We needed a further adjournment. They adjourned it for the 3 weeks. Then we went in, and because Justice Connect asked for written reasons, we went in the hearing for like 2 hours. 8 weeks it took for them to send out written reasons.
Yep.
And they decided that the tenants' needs were higher than the owners.
Yeah. So a couple of things on this particular case. We'll go through the case and then, you know, some thoughts on different strategies that we can potentially put in place. So this one, you can see that the renters didn't dispute the validity of the notice. There was a question in the written determination about whether or not the agent had given a valid reference check. And you kind of think, okay, well, if we think about this, the rent is continually in arrears and a challenge. You know, I can imagine what the rental reference sounded like. So I don't have any issues with that, but also the courts didn't have any issues with that. They went on, and this is, I think, the really interesting thing. They highlighted that the male tenant cited mental health. For his own health and for his family's health, he could not live in their family home. So obviously there were some big challenges there. Obviously you heard from Christine that the wife confirmed that. And they highlighted then that the renter faced financial difficulties or on a payment plan for outstanding rent and had infants in special care. So she's a grandmother with a daughter, I think, and then 2 grandchildren. Goes on to say that the member found that the needs of the renter, being a family of 4, facing significant health and financial challenges, outweighed the needs of the single rental provider. Went on to say that the application was dismissed and allowing the renters to move in. So as Christine said, the amount of evidence that is detailed in this written determination says that there was psychologist reports, there were medical reports. It was substantial, the evidence that the agent put forward for the owner. The renters provided no evidence.
They wouldn't, no matter how many times and this is why I asked
Yep.
the question before. The situation had changed financially, and they would not provide me, and Justice Connect kept telling me it was not my business.
Yeah. So this one is a really big concern. Okay, you know, we talk about end of fixed term tenancy, and owners should be able to get their property back. So think about when you've got a rent arrears case, You can issue an end of fixed term tenancy. So utilizing 91 ZZD, it's not for retaliatory purposes. All right. If a renter is not paying their rent, it is not deemed to be retaliatory. Where your retaliatory challenges come about is if the renter continually makes requests for maintenances and is exercising their rights under the Act. All right. If they don't pay their rent on time, that is not exercising their rights under the Act. So you could have run two, potentially. You could run notice to vacate for rent arrears or a payment plan. You could run an end of fixed term tenancy. You could also then potentially run owner moving in notice to vacate. There is nothing stopping you by running multiple strategies to potentially end a tenancy. So with this case, I suspect if you then issued a notice to vacate, they would quote that particular section of that written determination. And they're smart. Justice Connect are smart by asking for written determination. So you're going to have to then create other questions around the reasonable proportionate and why it is more reasonable for the owner to move into the property versus the renter to move out of the property. Thoughts, comments? Remember, everything's being recorded. Yeah. It's a big one, this one. I remember Belinda brought it in and she goes, I just sent you an email. You know when people say that? I just sent you an email. I was like, what? And then she came back 5 minutes like, did you read it? I'm like, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 All right. So, you know, it's a really good example where it's actually not fair. The owner clearly demonstrated that their needs, they had evidence, they had financial documentation, they had everything. But the tribunal saw it the other way. I think it was Member Moon too, wasn't it? Member Moon, yes. Okay. So I'm being recorded. And my friend works at Big Cat now. All right, section 213A. All right, I think we'll have a break after this one so you guys can stretch your legs and grab a coffee for a couple of minutes. So section 213A. This section is really, should be utilized by you all. So when you are making an application for rent arrears, if the rent arrears exceed the bond, you tick this box, section 213A. All right, it looks like this on the VCAT hub. Now, what this does is it allows for the tribunal to be able to provide you, if you get a possession order, an order that allows you to get the bond as well, rather than having to wait 4 weeks, 4 months, a long time. Okay, so with this particular section, if you're at a time where you've issued your notice to vacate, you're making your application, if the renter is, say, a couple of $100 below the bond amount, if it was me, I'd wait a few more days and then make my application so that I could tick this box. Because that then allows me only to have one hearing rather than get my possession, move the tenant on, and then have to make an application for bond. Okay, so take this one away as one of your, your top takeaways. Utilize section 213. It will make life easy for yourself. All right, we will break for 5 minutes for everyone to stretch their legs, and then we're going to come back with maintenance. Few that we've been through. We're a room full of property managers. It's very quiet today. Ah, yes, perfect. Oh, hang on, I need the mic for regional. Thank you.
I have a question just in regards to exercising your rights.
Yep.
We have an end of fixed term. If the member does ask us at VCAT, what would be a reason that we could use in a VCAT hearing?
The reasons can really be anything. It could be, the renter, generally, there's always a reason. Now, for those who have been doing this a long time, the old no reason notice, that was funny, wasn't it? There was always a reason why we told the tenant to move. So if the renter is in arrears, it might be that the renter is continually 10 days in arrears, and this is causing financial hardship for the owner. Maintenance, funny enough, is where you've got to be careful. You've got to be looking at, is the renter exercising their rights?
Mhm.
So what could be another example? Maybe they're not maintaining the garden, maybe they're not maintaining the property, you've issued some breach notices, we're not happy with the performance of the tenancy.
So just base it around the renters.
Behaviour and performance, but stick away. If you've had a renter that's issued you with lots of maintenance requests, you are probably borderlining retaliatory
Mhm.
because they are exercising their rights under the Act.
Yep.
Yep. Anyone wants to volunteer some takeaways? Come on. Big cat issue, yes. Anyone in regional? Do you want to unmute and? Okay, cool.
The one about stating your renter's income. in the
Yep,
summary
yep.
proofs.
Yep, perfect. Might not put it in the summary proofs, but keep it as your evidence. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone have anything else they've got? Yeah, 6 month adjournments. BCAT always knows when I've done some training because the request for 6 month adjournments come through. It's almost like she's out there again.
Checking that box.
213A. Yeah, big one. Save yourself some time. And you're already making your application. It's not like it's a double charge. Anyone else? Regional, anyone? Nope. Okay, all right, they're all good there. Okay, all right, so let's have a look at maintenance. It's funny when we talk about maintenance, and actually we had a request for this particular topic. It's not a topic that I do a lot of training on, but it really did highlight that there are so many different types of maintenance that we actually have to deal with. You know, we've got a combination of day-to-day maintenance, we've got urgent maintenance, we've got final inspection maintenance, we've got safety check now, we've got preventative maintenance, we've got building maintenance, we've got cladding, OC stuff, like there's so much more that has come about over the last sort of 10 years. So when you think about your day-to-day maintenance, who wants to share some tips with regards to how you manage your day-to-day maintenance? Does anyone do maintenance in a set block of every day? Does anyone only take maintenance in writing? Does anyone have anything that they want to share with everyone that says this was my biggest tip and how I manage maintenance? Yep.
We only take maintenance in writing.
Yep.
Because it makes more effort for them.
Yep.
And we also get them to supply photos for our trades. Majority of the time, quote off the actual photos rather than having to go and it just makes more time.
Yeah,
rather than just getting a
absolutely.
quote straight back.
Yep. So the comment here, regional, was about always requesting maintenance in writing and to request photographs. Yeah, absolutely. If you can speed up the process, it will make life easier and it will also take away confusion. You know, for those who know me, my husband's a plumber and he always corrects us. It's not the sink, it's the basin in the bathroom. You know, when I say, oh, the bathroom sink's blocked, he's like, seriously, after how many years we've been married, it's the bathroom basin. So, you know, if you send something to a plumber and you use the wrong terminology, you might send them in the wrong end of the house.
We also base it, sorry, just quickly. A lot of the time people will ring to whinge, but they won't actually go to the effort of putting it in writing in photos.
Yes, true. We've got a mic here. Yep.
What if like they don't use an email and like they don't have email or anything and they want to send in maintenance? Like
Yeah, so
they
you could do
can't
it-
send in written maintenance.
You can do a text and make sure that you can then push it back through to your software so you can save it. Yep, a photograph. So much easier than sometimes people articulating what they're trying to say. Yep.
We actually have started the process that we do maintenance follow-up once a week, and once a month we download our reports from our main trades.
Yep.
And send them off to our tradies so that we get responses as to see where they're at.
Yeah.
And that's
'Cause
helped us immensely.
So often tenants will report the maintenance, the tradespeople will call them, and then the tenant never calls them. It's funny, they called them, they wanted the maintenance done. So yeah. Anyone else got a tip? Steve?
One of the biggest things that I find holds or slows process down is quotes.
Yep.
Asking for quotes. So asking the owners to give us a money limit.
Yep.
to be able to get a job done rather than
Yeah,
expecting
I
2,
love
3,
that.
4 quotes, and it makes the tradies happy too.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've got a quote and the owner asks for a second quote, my tip would be, you can just take out some details, send that quote to your other tradesperson and ask them to quote off that quote. It saves you so much time. Okay? And particularly you can go, can you beat this? No, great. Okay. Dear owner, I've spoken to the plumber. They can't beat it. We need to go with quote 2 or quote 1. Okay? That's a really good tip. Recording your maintenance, make sure you've got everything documented. Question around, are you utilising, I know we heard from the guys in Werribee, they're setting reminders and obviously doing follow-ups once a week. You need to have some process in place because even though the maintenance gets reported and pushed out to the trade, if something goes pear-shaped, ends up in court, you guys are going to end up in that court case, no matter what. Okay? Can't stress that to you enough. Even if you have called the owner, told the owner, followed up the owner, you guys will always end up in the court case. Now, for the directors in the room, why will we always end up in the court case? Anyone know? Because we've got public liability insurance. Now, instead of our responsibility being 50%, it might be 2%, but we are always going to end up in that court case. Okay, there was a case in 2019, property in Doncaster with the balcony collapse with the overloading of the balcony. Yep. That one was just settled in the county court 2 months ago. I don't know. It was confidential. Yep, I don't know. But it was, I think from memory, 24 plaintiffs. Everyone that attended that particular property, that party that night. There were 2 people that died, substantial injuries. Yes, it was. Yep. The house has since been demolished, I believe. But yeah, so they, part of that court case was, okay, was there ever any maintenance reported by the tenant that suggested that the balcony or the deck was unstable? What were the routine inspection reports like? Did the property manager ever flag anything? A whole lot of information that came about. The agency spent 3-4 years in court. Okay, big one, that one. What happens if the owner says, no, I don't want to do the maintenance? It's one of my favorites. It's a good one. What happens? What do we do? Yep.
That happens.
Yep.
You'll be held liable.
Yep, highlighting to the owner that if we don't do it, they're going to be liable. But again, if they don't do it, you go and the tenant falls through something, hurt, dies, you guys are going to be included. Okay, so it's really important to make sure you've got some sort of process. Sometimes, with my director hat on, I don't want to ever give away a property. But sometimes you have to let those properties go. I fired an owner the other 2 weeks ago after 14 years of managing her property. She was mortified. Like, why would you fire me? Because you're a pain in the ass. That is recorded, regional. Yes. Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Yep. Not only will the property manager go through the court, but the director, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So let's have a look. Urgent maintenance. We know what urgent maintenance is. So what's the process? What's the time frame for getting maintenance attended to? Yep, immediately. So it needs to be actioned immediately. It doesn't need to be repaired immediately. Actioned, not repaired. The hot water service blows up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't have to be replaced at 4:05. All right, and in fact, probably if anyone's running an after hours phone, you're probably not going to hear the phone. But when you get that call 7 a.m. the next morning, you just need to action it. All right, when it comes to compensation, what the courts will look at is how quickly did you action it? Has the renter been without hot water for 6 hours or 6 days? Okay, and then how are you managing your expectations with your renters? Again, as a husband, as a tradesperson who works for real estate agents, he loves it when he gets a call from the tenant that says, hey, when are you coming? He's like, coming where? Where am I going? And he's like, oh, you just got a work order. He goes, no, I haven't. I've been on a roof. So, you know, one of the things that we love about our technology is we process and we allocate the work. The tradespeople get then bombarded with the calls from the renter. So how do you then set the expectation for the renter? What would you say in those circumstances? Anyone? Yeah, going to issue a work order. The trade will contact you within 24 hours, unless obviously it's super, super, super urgent. I've called the trade and they'll give you a call within the next few hours. All right, don't set your tradies up to fail. Don't set the tradies up to get annoyed with you. Expectations for owners. How do we manage those for urgent repairs? Yep. Yep, leaking hot water. Yep. 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 So one of the things I've learned over time is get a video from the renter who says the hot water service is leaking. Send it to your plumber. Plumber says, oh, it could be this, could be that. I don't think it's burst. So then you can easily have that conversation with the owner. What I actually did was I got this information, call out's fee is going to be this. If it is burst, it's going to be this. How much easier is that than backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards? Comment down here.
Sending an email to them, give them a call first and say an email's coming about
Yeah.
extra maintenance.
Yep.
Just so you don't get shocked and fall off your poodle.
Yep. Absolutely. And, you know, the longer you work with your clients, the easier it is to do maintenance. Your property managers are often in a position where they don't want to tell the owner they've got to do the maintenance. So it might be, you know, and I've been doing this a long time, I might say to an owner, you know, hi Belinda, just letting you know the tenant's called, the kitchen flick mixer's broken. I'm going to organise a plumber. The cost should be no more than $300. If you've got any queries, let me know. You know what? If I'm the owner, I don't want to then have to ring my property manager and say, yep, go ahead with a flick mixer, that's fine. Because by the time I've had that call, something else has happened, I've forgotten, you know, solve the problem quickly for the owner. And then when the job order comes in, you can then confirm the amount. Question, comment?
I was just going to say the other thing to do is during the sign-up process, when
Yeah.
you're filling out all of your owner instructions,
Yep.
you get an instruction from them with relation to what their dollar amount is to spend on non-urgent repairs
Yep.
versus urgent repairs.
Yeah, perfect. So when you're signing up the client, set the expectation. So, you know, I'm sure you have a really busy life. What about we set the maintenance limit at $500 for non-urgent? But then when the maintenance comes in, shoot the owner the email that says, hey owner, just letting you know, this has come through. I've already actioned it. If there's anything else, I'll let you know. You know what? I'd be like, thank you, because I don't want to have to think about it. Got too many other things going on. Expectation for renters where the item is under warranty. This is always fun too. Yeah. Regional, if you didn't hear that, it was a big over the crowd. All right, what do we do? Yeah. Yep. Yep. I'll repeat. Yeah, so in these circumstances, we've got to tell the renter it's coming from a warranty, it's a piece of a part's coming in, set the expectation. Potentially you've got compensation here though. Yep. So flag the conversation with the owner. I know the heating unit is under warranty, we'll get it all attended to. At this stage, it's probably going to be 3 weeks, middle of the winter. We're going to need to compensate the renter. Set the conversation straight away. All right, don't wait for the renter to ask for it. You know, if you want a 5-star Google review, that's definitely how you would get it. All right, also have that conversation about is there ducted heating, is there a split system, is there anything else? All right, think about what else you could potentially put to support the renter at that time. Now that air conditioning's an urgent repair, I think that's going to be fun in coming years. All right, maintenance for routines. You know, what are you looking at? Remember, your routine inspection is a site inspection, but if you see something, you need to report it. Even if you were reporting the same thing over and over and over again. That is what saves your bacon. Okay, the owner hasn't done the repairs, Their choice, but you've reported it, you've reported it, you've reported it. And make sure that you've got photographs on those set areas. Sometimes I think you can have too many photographs on a routine. I don't know what the balance is on that one. And then thinking about when you're doing a routine inspection, should you actually be breaching the renter for something? If the garden's not maintained, if the property's not maintained, you know, we don't use a lot of breaches enough. We did breaches, didn't we, earlier in the year, I think, from memory? You know what you need to do. Issue your breach and then do your compliance order. It's there for you. The renter's going to breach you. So think about how you guys can utilize it. And then as the guys were mentioning before with regards to, you know, from the Werribee office, if we're talking about following up maintenance, you know, part of our routine inspection has to be a follow-up. You know, what's our time frame and our expectation for these jobs to be completed? You've got to have something in place, some sort of follow-up. Legal risks of incomplete maintenance. What are they? Suing, yeah. Yep. And there's, compensation. You know, they're going to happen. I don't know what to say for a hiccup. It's not like bless you. Sorry. Yep, somebody can get hurt. Okay, so let's look at these. What are the risks here? Yep, steps broken, slippery, falling down, injury. What can we do to mitigate our risk? Yeah, make a recommendation for a builder to attend. You know, you guys aren't builders, but you say to the owner, I'm not a builder, but you probably want to have a builder look at this. I'm concerned. You know, the handrail moves, the steps are a bit spongy, or if there's no tread, if that's got gum trees or something around it, people are going to fall and kind of go dun, 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 dun. Injury. Okay, don't be in that position. What about this one? Mold. How do people have so much mold in their houses? I've never seen so much mold in my life in the last few years. So what are our risks here? Because if anyone Googles mold, they're dying.
Yeah.
Always. All right, so you need to action it straight away. All right, have a plan, have a follow-up, have steps.
Enough to engage the mold doctor, even though it's going to take them 4 to 6 weeks to attend.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep, go and get them. Yep. Yep. The challenge when you're using, you know, the organisations, there is always going to be something that's going to come about from it. It may not solve the problem completely. We've got one at the moment where some mold in, like it's a weatherboard house. Like the bedroom's at the front. The mold's on an internal wall. Mold is in the bathroom, which is not unusual, and then in another internal room. So, but we've got a blind side of the house which has no sun. We think there's probably something wrong with the stormwater drain. The gutters might be full. So sometimes mold comes from something else. It's not always, you know, rising damp or, you know, the house needs to be condemned, but you need to make sure that you're actioning it. All right. And, you know, there's some great, for those who are using Chat GPT, you can put in some great examples of information that can go out to renters about managing mold during winter. I know Belinda, when we did a workshop on it a couple of months ago, that was the first thing that they put together. I was like, this is amazing. You know, 250 words or less. You know, have that as part of your introduction to tenants moving in during the winter months. This one, what are the risks there? Yeah, waterproofing. Yep. Once water's got in, it's a big job. Okay, this one, tenant vacated, never reported it. So the question would be, you know, how far can we take it with the tenant? Probably not very far. Owner was trying to sell. I think they spent about $4,500 to remove the tiles, re-waterproof and retile. So yeah. All right, so make sure, so when you guys have got your weekly meetings, have these sort of examples that you guys can share, because sometimes property managers will never come across something like that. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. This is how we all learn. Like you all know, the examples come from my office. All right, preventative future maintenance. What are some examples with future or preventative maintenance? Sorry? Flexi hoses, yes. Yes, does anyone know what a flexi hose is? Yes, so tell me.
Goes under the basin,
Yes.
that it, like, it stand on.
Mm-hmm. I think it's got an easy hooker, which always still makes me laugh. Easy hooker, yes. Yes, flexi hoses. So you might have a plan in place for properties that are 5 years, 10 years older, that you have the plumber go in and replace the hose. Yeah, they always, I don't know what it is with those. What else for preventative maintenance? Painting? How do you mean?
So for example, if you have mold in a bathroom
Yep.
that you treat and whatever,
Yep.
I always recommend to the owners that they then paint it with a mold inhibitor
Yep.
paint.
Yep, good one. Yep, because there are that special, it's a mold shield paint, isn't it? That you can paint the bathroom. What else comes up with future preventative maintenance? Gutters, yes.
Servicing appliances.
Yeah, servicing appliances. Who knew you had to service a garage door? Oh, okay. I've been told, yes. Sorry? Yes, caulking showers, preventative maintenance. If there's any type of grout coming out, recork it, regrout it, absolutely. All right, so your part of your routine inspection might be, this is all fine, but there's some preventative maintenance we think you should consider. Edges, hedges, yes. Tenant responsibility. I'd say that's tenant. Yeah. It's like the battery for the NBN, is it? Yeah. Yeah, garage remote. Yeah, same. Yep, you can do that. Or the filter on the split system. How many times do you see and you're like, do you know how to do that? And you just click it up. Yes. So all those sort of things, they're preventative maintenance. Yeah, I always say tenant. Yeah. Well, they're using it. Yeah. They're about $40, aren't they? Yeah.
I actually read something that
Yeah.
The battery doesn't need replacement because they run off a backup. I read
Why does
that.
it beep?
Well, I don't know, but that's just what I read. I don't have the answer.
Oh, there you go. So it's got the backup, but it still is going to beep until you replace it. All right, so we've got some suggestions there. Obviously, we talk about gas and safety checks, servicing of appliances, pool barriers, absolutely. Smoke alarm is a normal. Yeah, fences. Yep. Gutter cleaning, hedging, heating, cooling, servicing, anything along those lines. Yeah, decks, a perfect one. I had a property years ago out in Albert Park, 3-level. On the top level was a timber deck. There was a reoccurring calendar note in my in my inbox that said I needed to get the deck re-stained every 12 months. All right, there's a lot there to do. So then you need to make sure you've got some reminders. How are you going to set them up? Are you going to have a preventative maintenance clause added to your routine inspections? Are you going to put that into your follow-up, checking in what needs to be potentially done? And then highlighting what happens if we don't get these things done? All right, what's an example of a preventative maintenance becoming an urgent repair? Deck, yep. Yep, anything else? Yeah, fences. Yeah, water leaks. Gutters with all that rain last week. If there are leaves or, small plants growing in the gutters, if the owner hasn't undertaken preventative maintenance, you're not going to get it through your insurance. So if they live with large gum trees or large trees around them, there has to be a plan in place. That's part of the initial listing or the routine inspection. All right, finals. So how soon after we return the keys return do we complete the final inspection? Yeah, 24, 48 hours. There is no set time. Okay. There are days when you might be able to do it sooner. There might be some days that you do it, it takes you a little bit longer, depending on else what's going on. However, you need to make sure you've got a procedure now in place to invite your renters to the inspection. So if you haven't already done it, make sure you put it into your vacate email that says, hey, renter, please let me know if you want to attend the final inspection. Comment? Yep.
Because
Yep.
they're not going to finalise the cleaning until the new renters are moving in.
Yep.
Do you still do it within 24 to 48 hours, or is it until they finish paying for the lease?
So great question. So in a lease break, it's when you get possession. You have to complete your final inspection within your 10 business days. All right, it's in a lease break, it's not a matter of waiting until the cleaning's done or anything else. You've got 10 business days from the time you're getting possession back. If the renter says, I'm vacating, 1st of November and they return the keys the 15th of October, your 10-day count starts 15th of October. Okay, as soon as you get possession is when your count starts. It's water and ice, I promise, there's nothing else in there. If anyone just heard that clunky noise. Okay, so you need to make sure that you've got some sort of process to invite the renter. All right, I was presenting a case the other day at the Magistrates Court and my property manager had not invited the renter. The case didn't go well. There was cleaning. The renter said we would have returned to do it and highlighted section 35 of the legislation that says we should be entitled to attend. Okay, don't fall into that trap. And if the property has been professionally cleaned at the commencement of the tenancy, make sure that you've supplied the renter with a copy of that invoice when they've moved in. I did this session for another group last week, and a tip that one of those property managers shared is when their renter gives their 28 days, they send them the final inspection. Sorry, they send them the condition report, ingoing condition report with their comments. And it says, dear renter, just providing you a copy of the condition report relating to your property so that we can set the expectation of how the property is to be left. I was like, I like that.
I also started adding it into my vacate email.
Yeah.
To say, please don't give on report if the property is perfectly clean.
Yep.
You must provide a receipt. of
Yep.
the vacate.
Perfect. So tenants given 28 days notice, we make sure that the reminder says if the property was professionally cleaned before you moved in, it would be detailed on your ingoing. You need to make sure you have it professionally cleaned and provide a receipt. Okay. The professional cleaning is making life easy for us. We now have to utilize it. We're all starting to get used to it. Question?
Days ago,
Yep.
and the owner requested the tenant to pressure wash, professionally clean and everything, but I asked the owner, we need proof of that because they didn't at the start of the tenancy.
Yep.
I looked at the guidelines and I couldn't find that it said to actually provide receipts.
Yeah.
Is it somewhere there?
Yes, it's on the condition report that says that there is a receipt attached. Yep. There'll be some files that you wouldn't have updated because they might have moved in 2021 and we're all still just getting our head around it. But just make sure that you go back and have a look to see if they were professionally cleaned and then what that step's going to look like. All right, so this is no professionally cleaned, invoice supplied. If you've had it professionally cleaned with an invoice supplied, the tenant has to return it the same way, which is great, nice and easy for us. So this is the section 35, making sure that the renter is given the opportunity to attend. Now, there will be some times when it's not good for the property manager and the renter to meet. So maybe somebody else might need to step in and do the final inspection, but you have to give them the opportunity. So it might be, okay, let me know if you want to attend the final inspection. If they don't respond, you probably assume they don't want to. If they do respond and it's not suitable, then again, it's not about you guys saying, well, here are all the opportunities for you to attend. You might say, I'm doing the final inspection at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. You know, this is when I'm going to be there. Doesn't say that the parties have to agree on the time. It just means that there has to be a reasonable opportunity for them to attend. Okay.
If you were to do a pre-vacate inspection, for example, would that, in your circumstance where, just say for whatever reason you'd forgotten to invite the renter to the final inspection, would that cover you in that?
I don't think so, because you've got that section which clearly says final inspection. It really should say, yeah, for a copy of the exit condition report. Yeah. Okay. Question?
If you do invite the renter.
Yep.
And they choose not to attend.
Yep.
There's issues.
Yep.
Do you then have to give them the opportunity to go back?
I think that's a couple of slides down the track. It is the $1 million question. Do you let them return? Do you not? What's the vote? Time frame? Depends what it is. I kind of have a 3-strike rule when I do my finals. If there's 3 items, I'm going to send the renter back. If there's 2 items and one's dusting skirting boards, I'm probably going to wipe them down myself. Who's got some sort of cleaning baby wipes in their glove box? Because it's just easier. It's not worth the fight. It's not worth the time. All right, so I run a 3-strike rule. Everyone's different. Some are harder than others, but I think it comes down to if you've got a new tenant moving in, was it professionally cleaned? You know, how easy can I get them to go back if the property is local or is the property an hour away? There's a lot of variables there, but there's no particularly right answer. Okay. Section 126 also. So again, when you are making a bond retention, you can utilize section 126, which allows you to be saying, I'm making an application outside of the 10 business days. Again, you have to have adequate reasons on why you're utilizing this section. It can't just be, I forgot. You have to be able to demonstrate to the courts the communication backwards and forwards, maybe communication with the owner, maybe the renter was away, maybe the renter didn't get the first email. There's lots of reasons. If you are negotiating in a lease break, perfect example, maybe you're just trying to wrap it up, but it's probably a better opportunity. Schedule, diarise, make your bond retention at your day 10. Even if you do not have all of your quotes for a lease break or clean, it doesn't matter. You can put TBA on everything, but you've got to get it in the system because the members are getting harder and harder on this. You have to prove why you should be entitled to this. The other one is your tenant initiated bond claims. All right, so we see this happen a lot. If the renter has initiated the bond refund, then you guys need to make sure you need to move quickly on it because you do not want the bond refund going to the renter when you've got cleaning or something else needs doing or a lease break. Because again, if the owner's out of pocket, who they're coming to? You guys, the director. All right, so set some reminders. You know, for my newer property managers, they'll put the vacate date in my calendar and then they'll put a reminder in normally day 8 after the keys are due to come in, and then on day 10 it says reminder, finalised bond, last day to finalise bond. All right, so work out what's going to work for you guys. All right, maintenance, this is for the guys in the corner. So time frame, arranging that maintenance. You know, what are the times when you potentially don't allow the renter to return to the property? Might be you've got a new tenant moving in within a short period. Give yourself some time though. Don't have a vacate on a Monday and a new tenant moving in on a Tuesday. It's not worth it. Okay, because I can almost put money on it. Those ones are the ones that you're going to need to do some work on. All right, so even when we process our vacate notices, our availability date is usually 5 days on the internet versus the tenant's actual vacate date. So it's 5 days more, just to allow some breathing space. Explain it to your owners, they'll understand. Okay. All right, this is my case where we had at the magistrate's court. Property manager completed the inspection 3 days after the keys were returned. The renter disputed the cleaning. There was repainting due to damage of walls. Application was made for retention for cleaning and repairs. This particular owner just wanted the full bond. It was one of those claims where I really wanted to just say, I'm here under owner instruction, Your Honour. I didn't, because that's the code when they know that you really don't want to be here. So with this particular example, we were out of time. There were cleaning, which the tenant said they would have returned to do it. In fact, they actually had the property professionally cleaned. The judge said, well, you know, you should have gone back to the renter and given them the opportunity to send the cleaners back. And then the walls, this owner was putting the property on the market for sale. How could I possibly justify $800 worth of repainting when the owner was repainting it to get the best for a sale result? All right, so sometimes you're going to lose. But every time we have those matters, we learn from them and go, okay, how do we put them together better? What would we have done differently? All right, negotiating bond refunds. We've got 11 minutes. Okay, 3 of my favorites. A range hood. My God, how many times do I go into a final inspection? I run my hand under the range hood and it's dirty. I know, I don't know why I still do it, but I still do it because I'm hopeful that it's going to be clean. What do we do here? There's filters missing. How do we settle this? It's manky, full of oil, filters missing. What do we do? Yep, work out how much it's going to be. Yep, and negotiate the replacement of them. And it might be, you don't necessarily need a trade for that. It could be that the renter could actually just drop the filters to your office. They're quite easy to fit in. All right, what about the hole in the bedroom door? How do we negotiate a bond refund on this one? Quote, what's going to happen when you patch that? It's going to look pretty average, isn't it? So what was the conversation going to look like with the owner? How much is the tenant responsible for and how much is the owner responsible for? Yeah. Yeah, is there a doorstop? Yep, that's going to be a question. What about if this is on the front of the door? Now it looks like an elbow or a punch or something. Remember, the tenant is only responsible for that repair, not the entire door. So it might be in the owner's best interest to replace the entire door. It's going to look better, and the tenant is responsible for this much of it. All right, that's potentially how you would negotiate a bond claim on that one. What about the iron mark on the carpet? Seriously, who irons on the carpet? Who's had one of these recently? Has anyone not had this? An iron mark on the carpet? Never? You've heard that these things happen. I do not understand why people iron on the carpet. And it hasn't changed. It's been happening. You know, my first job was out in Armidale. You know, a lot of flats in Glen Huntley and Paran, and you know, I remember thinking, they have an ironing board. What's going on here? No. So, what's our solution on this one? How do we manage and negotiate this?
Section of the car.
Yep, because remember the tenant is responsible for this, not that. So if this was mine, I'd say, okay, it roughly costs about $200 to patch carpet. I'd be saying to the renter, $200 is needed to settle this. If I was going to go to VCAT, I would probably have a different approach. Okay, because I need to then go back and look at how old the carpet was. Was it replaced recently? Is it out of, if it's out of depreciation, if this is older than 10 years, I'm going to get 0. But the tenant has caused the damage. So you should be trying to negotiate something. Okay. So these are the CAV cleaning guidelines. So there are 5 guidelines that CAV introduced in 2021. Cleaning is one of them. So if you need to be able to get a definition of reasonably clean, it's all set there. Again, I heard a really good example the other day where somebody said, this is how a property manager decides whether or not it's reasonable or not. If the issue can be resolved using cleaning products, it's not reasonably clean. I was like, I really like that. So if you think about if I don't know, what's an example? If the toilets, or actually, let's say a bed head. Bed head's a good example. Bed head in the master bedroom. If the bed head mark can be removed by using product, is the property reasonably clean? The answer probably is no, because you can get it off with something, some sort of cleaning product. But, you know, so that's a really good example. If you can resolve the issue using a cleaning product, it's not reasonably clean. And then what you need to be thinking about is when do you decide on compensation versus, you know, taking the matter further. So if you've got costs that you charge your owner to attend court, it's going to be maybe more expensive for the owner to be paying for those costs than it is on what the outcome's going to be. You know, my magistrate's one, that owner was, you know, he's got an agreement to pay $1 figure per hour. You know, that matter was listed at 9:30. It was heard at 11:30. At 1 o'clock, we were stood down for lunch. We came back at 2 o'clock and the matter was concluded at 2:30. It's a long time to spend time in Sunshine Courts, let me tell you. All right, so you have to think about, if I'm going to be charging the owner $200 an hour to do a court case, and the owner's only claiming $400, is it going to be viable? That's your first question. Is the damage occurred to a depreciative item? Has it exceeded its lifespan? You're not going to get it through the courts, so you're going to have to negotiate. And then if it's something small and the renter has acknowledged the damage, how do we resolve it that way? You want to prevent going through the courts. Yep, perfect. Will the insurance cover it? But remember, if you claim through insurance, the insurance company will chase the renter, even if it's accidental damage. So there's been a couple of those recently where, you know, a house was flooded because of a washing machine. The owner said, yeah, I'm happy to make an insurance claim. The tenant says, I'll pay the excess. The owner and tenant go, fantastic. The insurance company then goes, well, actually, we're going to chase the renter for all of it. So be careful of that one as well. They don't get away scot-free. All right, so final inspection, rent arrears, cleaning required. So again, at VCAT at the moment, property managers are making claims for bonds and compensation. If you have got a claim and the rent arrears, it's only rent arrears, and it's less than the bond, then you only need to be making a claim for the bond. There is no charge through VCAT to make that claim. But what seems to be happening at the moment is that property managers are ticking bond and compensation. It's going to delay your hearings and it's costing your agency money or your owner money. You actually don't need to be doing that. You just need to be making a straight bond claim. Apparently of 50 applications that were made last month, I think it was something like 11 were made with bond and comp and they didn't need to. All right, so that's a reasonable portion. You also need to be thinking about when you're finalising a tenancy, if there's going to be a claim on landlord insurance. Now, landlord insurance generally covers rent arrears. So then you can understand, if I'm familiar with the policy, the bond is usually used there to reinstate the property. So I put aside the rent arrears because the insurance company will process that. But then I have effectively the bond amount in order to reinstate the property. So sometimes you can go through those steps. The other tip I would give you with regards to when you're finalising tenancies, if you go to do a final and you've got rent arrears and you've got cleaning, send the notification to the renter to claim the bond straight away. You actually might get them to tick the box. Money will hit your account quickly. I had a funny one last week where the renter thought they were clever and they ticked the box thinking it was going to them. It landed in our trust account. I was like, oh, how did this one get here? He rang to complain that he wanted the money back. But there was so much rent arrears owing that it wasn't going to happen. So make sure you understand the steps with regards to if you're going to make a insurance claim, what can you claim here and what can't you claim? Question?
Would be in.
Yep.
What are you best to do?
So even if you can get the bond, you can then park the bond money in your trust account
Okay. and it-
until you complete the final inspection, and then you can say, okay, I've got that bond money. I can use that to clean the garden, do an internal clean, carpet cleaning, those things.
So if it's a rental arrears hearing, the bond isn't necessarily to be used for the
No,
rent
you don't
arrears.
have to
Okay.
necessarily use it for rent arrears, because if your owner has landlord insurance, you'll be able to make a claim through the landlord insurance. And if you are making landlord insurance claims for your owners, you should be charging your owners for it. But you need to make sure you've got an agreement in place for that. All right, so this is what you need to be making sure you're ticking, is this particular box. So you can see 419A, not this bottom one where it says 419A 452. You don't need to do that one. All right, finally, last slide as we have 1 minute to go. Some tips. I've shared you a couple that I've ripped off and duplicated from another group. Anyone want to share some tips with regards to attending and managing maintenance at final inspections? Yeah, check if the maintenance has been reported. Yep, what else? Any other tips? Yeah, I love that one. Attach the return condition report to the vacate email to the renter. Use a lockbox, key safe, whatever your terminology is. If you think it's going to go pear-shaped, so much easier for your trades to go in and out of that property using the key safe. Is a good one. Anyone else? Yep. Yep, absolutely. Or FaceTime them if they're not local so they can see it. What else? What at this table? What do you guys got? Give me something. What's a tip? Right, you guys, tip for you? Any suggestions here? No? Any other suggestions? No? All right, regional guys, have you guys got any tips you want to share? You're keeping them all to yourselves. All right, the best way we learn is hearing what other people do. You know, sometimes it just might be that one new idea that you go, that is brilliant. Why didn't I ever think about it? And now I'm going to implement it. All right, that is it. I will see you next year. If I don't see or speak to any of you, I'm going to scary saying this, have an amazing Christmas.
Just before we thank,
Thank you.
just before we thank Leah, does everybody know that there's been a brand new breed of rooster found that can lay eggs? Does anyone know what it is? They're called Himalayan. Now that's a joke, but what Leah doesn't do is joke about what she's good at. And this is, see, trust me, you got to go the journey. You got to go the journey.
That is the worst dad joke ever.
It's a great dad joke. Put your hands together for Leah, because what she does, he puts up the time with us. Leah, thank you as always. I know the guys learned a lot from it. Well done, guys.
That's a terrible joke.
Even though I'm a property manager, I'm also a tenant.